Israel Adesanya.
28-0!
The McGregor announcing
About a guy who is
Francis Ngannou.
What's up, the homies? Leighton here for UFC Gambling Addicts, back again for another UFC full card breakdown and predictions video. This one's going to be UFC 259. This card, super stacked. Super stacked. We've got Israel Adesanya taking on Blachowicz, Amanda Nunes defending her 145 title, Peter Yan taking on Aljo. I mean, underneath all of those title fights, so many good matchups on this card. You have to start this breakdown by sparking up. You have to. Gotta get a new lighter too. Alright homies, this one, like I said, super stacked. So many good matchups. We're going to jump straight into it. Mario Batista taking on Trevin Jones. And we're going to start with Trevin. So Trevin comes into this matchup 1-0 inside the UFC. He was getting completely outclassed in his UFC debut. He was getting smashed, basically, by Timur Valiev. Somehow, just somehow, he was able to come back in that fight. Weathered a really nasty storm from Timur, but found a big knockdown punch and later went on to finish that fight. The opponent, Mario Batista, 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Now this is a guy who was getting outclassed in his UFC debut by Corey Sanhagen. He wasn't able to come back and find a win the way Trevin Jones did, but he did later go on to get a couple nice wins under his belt. Even a flying knee against Miles Johns. You know, really impressive finish in his most recent fight. Now both of these guys are pretty fresh in their UFC career, so they're going to be hungry to open this card for us. As for power punching, I'm going to give that to Trevin Jones. But when I look at composure and technique, the guy who's more willing to take notes, be more calm in his approach, I'm going to give that to Mario Batista. It's a difficult matchup to start on, but I'm going to side with Mario purely because I like him as more of a composed fighter. So purely for those reasons, I'm going to side with Mario via decision. The numbers, I'll still put them pretty close because like I said, both of these guys are going to be hungry to open this card. And with hunger comes entertainment, comes a back and forth fight. So could be pretty close, but I'd put Mario minus 150, Trevin plus 120. And the actual numbers, we've got Mario over minus 200. Completely disagree. We're going to disagree on the opening line for this card. I mean, the technique, the composure, yeah, I'm giving that to Mario. But we are in the smaller octagon. And Trevin Jones, you know, he packs some power. So the opening odds, I would disagree with. Fight number 2, we've got Cruz taking on Medic. And we're going to start with Medic. So this guy comes into this matchup 6-0 as a pro, making his UFC debut by way of the Contender Series. Training out of King's MMA, which is a great camp with some top UFC fighters. You could see in his Contender Series matchup, this guy really likes to impose his will. He wants to throw nasty body kicks. He's just looking to be the dominator. The opponent, Cruz, comes into this matchup 0-1 inside the UFC. Also got a contract on the Contender Series where he had a super impressive knockout. Maybe the best knockout on the Contender Series, you know? If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to tell you how it went down. Go and check it out. Really crazy finish. I do like this matchup, guys. I think this is a good matchup. At some point, I think we're going to get fireworks. Both guys seem to prefer kicking rather than trying to dead the opponent with one punch. The real difference, in my opinion, Cruz is probably going to be kept on the outside. And because of that, it may look like Medic is more in control of this matchup. So purely for those reasons, octagon control, I'm going to side with Medic to most likely get a decision win. Maybe a TKO with the body kick again. But I'm favouring more of a decision, more control from Medic throughout this matchup. So I'll take Medic via decision. My numbers, I'd put Medic around -170, Alon Cruz +140. And that's basically the numbers we have here. We've got Medic -160 up to -175. Cruz coming back +140, +135. Yeah, I completely agree. I like the style of both of these guys, but I think Medic is a little bit more imposing with that style. Cruz maybe going to be kept on the outside, kept at the end of Medic's kicks. But Cruz, you know, you only have to look at the Contender Series fight. This guy can get pretty crazy. So, yeah, outside of round one, it may be interesting. Lavina Souza taking on Amanda Lemos. This is another good matchup, man. Already, at the start of this card, we're getting decent matchups. We're going to start with Lavina. So Lavina comes into this matchup 3 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a jiu-jitsu fighter, who's quite a gangster on the feet too. If you haven't seen Lavina fight, she kind of walks forward, trying to hit you with some big punches. She isn't afraid to pull guard if she needs to. Her ground game is the most dangerous weapon she has. And like I said, a bit of a tough girl on the feet too. The opponent, Amanda Lemos, comes into this matchup 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. She wrapped up Miranda Granger. She outclassed Mizuki. She did slow down a little bit towards the end against Mizuki, but yeah, against Mizuki it looked pretty clean. Another decent matchup at the start of this card. Both of these girls have a really decent ground game. Souza leaves herself more open to strikes on the feet. Amanda may look to expose that. I'm not too confident how this one's going to play out. Souza could put Amanda up against the fence for control time. Gun to my head though, I'm going to say Amanda Lemos probably gets these rounds based on striking. Maybe a little cleaner with the punches. So I'll take Amanda Lemos via decision. I am going to put the numbers pretty close. I'd put Amanda -140, Souza +110. And the actual numbers, man, disagree with this. Amanda Lemos over -200. No way. Lavina Souza nearly +200. I am going to take Amanda, but man, the numbers, I don't see how. You know, Souza, she's a gangster. She isn't the cleanest striker you're ever going to see, but she's willing to walk forward, right? She does have close rounds on the feet. I do expect Amanda to have some good moments with her punches, with her boxing, but at -200, yeah, that's a no play for me. Sean Brady taking on Jake Matthews. Man, this matchup, who knows? Who knows with this one? We're going to start with Sean. So Sean comes into this matchup 3-0 inside the UFC. Primarily a grappler with some nasty power to offer any opponent that's willing to strike. Sean Brady is a guy who, he's been on fire, right? From the moment he debuted until now, this guy has been on fire. Wrestling game very strong, top control game very strong, jiu-jitsu game high level, good punching power. You know, Sean Brady, this guy's a dark horse. Jake Matthews comes into this matchup 10 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. A really good wrestling game, a really good BJJ game, a striking game that, in my opinion, has improved. You only have to look at the game plan against Rostam Akman. He was able to drop Meek in that fight. The boxing side of Jake Matthews, slowly coming along. In my opinion, guys, don't bet on this fight, because both of these dudes match each other, right? If you look at what both of these guys specialize at, it's wrestling, it's BJJ. They're equally matching each other in that area. This could come down to kickboxing. And again, It's a hard one to decide who's going to be better there, because Brady has more power, whereas Jake may look to land those straight boxing shots, those straight jabs at 70% power. It's such a difficult one, man. I'm going to side with Sean Brady to win those striking exchanges, but man, this one is difficult. My prediction is going to be Sean Brady via decision. I'd put these numbers close, man. I'd put Sean Brady minus 130, Jake Matthews plus 100. And the actual numbers, Sean Brady over minus... Oh my God. Man, I disagree. Sean Brady minus 200, Jake Matthews plus 180. Yeah, I respect Jake Matthews more than that. This guy, you know, he's a good wrestler. Good BJJ. Boxing coming along. Sean Brady has been good. He's only been good so far. But make no mistake, this is a tough fight for both guys. Carlos Ulberg taking on Kennedy Zachukwu. And we're going to start with Carlos. So Carlos comes into this matchup 3-0 as a pro, making his UFC debut by way of the Contender Series. For those of you that don't know, Carlos Ulberg is training out of City Kickboxing, which is the same camp as the champion, Israel Adesanya. Now, Carlos Ulberg doesn't have a lot of MMA experience, but just like Adesanya, this man took the Muay Thai route as a fighter. He does have Muay Thai experience. If you look at the way he's moving, you can see glimpses of Adesanya in his game. The Contender Series fight, in all honesty, it looked like a mismatch. Carlos Ulberg, in my opinion, this guy is an exciting addition to the highest level. Kenedy Zachukwu comes into this matchup 1 win, 1 loss inside the UFC. Training out of Fortis MMA, which is a great camp, as we all know. Kenedy has all the physical advantages you could want as a fighter. He's tall, he's long, good punching power, but can't seem to impose his will enough in these matchups. It's been a good few months since we've seen this guy fight, so maybe he's able to show us a bit more aggression in his game. I'm not going to look past Ulberg in this matchup though. I think the Muay Thai experience should be the factor. If I'm Kenedy, I'm looking to grapple, right? I'm looking to take Carlos Ulberg to the mat, looking to fatigue him. If he doesn't do that, I think Carlos is more than likely going to tee off, right? He's going to use that Muay Thai experience. He's going to look to hurt Kenedy. And chances are, he probably does. So I'm going to take Carlos Ulberg via TKO in round number 1. I'd put Carlos minus 200, Kenedy plus 170. And we've got Carlos minus 250, minus 260, Kenedy plus 210, plus 220, as low as plus 190 as well. So yeah, I would agree with these numbers. Carlos hasn't got a lot of MMA experience, but, you know, Muay Thai, that's a big part of MMA. You know, it's kickboxing with elbows and knees. So Carlos Ulberg has that. And I'm sure, you know, training at City Kickboxing, he's getting that grappling in too. So Kenedy, he's really going to have to show us something in this matchup. But I'm going to side with Carlos. Tim Elliot taking on Jordan Espinosa. Out of every single fight on this card, I'm sure most of us would agree that this fight is probably the least exciting. Having said that, Tim Elliot can get pretty crazy in there. I'm not going to dive too deep into this one because it's really a dodgy fight to be betting on, considering who both of these guys are. I am going to side with the veteran Tim Elliot. Just being Tim Elliot with no specific game plan could be enough to beat Jordan Espinosa. I'd imagine that Espinosa is most likely on his bike, on the outside, jab and move, jab and move. Tim Elliot may just get crazy, right? He doesn't really know what he's doing. He's just throwing stuff. This one, it's a sleeper, right? Because the matchup doesn't seem exciting. But because of that, it may exceed expectation, right? I'm going to side with Tim Elliot to be Tim Elliot and win via decision. My numbers, I'd put both of these guys minus 110. And the actual numbers, basically that. Tim Elliot plus 100, minus 105. Jordan Espinosa, minus 110, minus 120. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you're putting money on Tim Elliot, you're really gambling. If you're putting money on Jordan Espinosa, you're really gambling. Kai Kara France taking on Rogerio Bontorin, and we're going to start with Kai. So Kai comes into this matchup 4 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a kickboxer. More of a boxer than a kicker. Training out of City Kickboxing. Kai Kara is really a guy you have to show up against if you want to get a win. Brandon Moreno was a man possessed with his striking. And Brandon Royval got crazy with his striking to find a submission. If we've learned anything from Kai, it's that he's a well-rounded guy, good kickboxing, good wrestling, good movement. Cardio seems to always hold up. To beat Kai Kara France, you really have to show up. Rogerio Bontorin comes into this matchup 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a grappler. However, this guy does have some nasty punching power. It's not exactly too technical, but man, you can see it. This guy does possess good power. Ray Borg showed us that Bontorin is a way better grappler when he's on top, rather than on the bottom. So that's something to note for this one. If he wants to dominate Kai, he has to take the back, or even end up on top when the fight hits the mat. Striker versus grappler. Bontorin most likely looks to put Kai up against the fence. That's how he's going to control this matchup. If we're not up against the fence, we're probably on the mat. If you're Kai Kara, just looking to kickbox. Use your kickboxing, speed and movement to stay away from that grappling game plan. Really good matchup, guys. I haven't picked against Kai Kara yet, and I'm not going to here. I'm going to take Kai to outbox Bontorin and win via decision. My numbers would be Kai minus 180. I'd put Bontorin plus 150. And the actual numbers, Kai Kara France minus 130. Bontorin plus 100, plus 110. So that's interesting. I mean, Kai Kara has fought against some good grapplers already. And Bontorin is another good grappler. I think if Bontorin wins this one, man, it's going to be pushing Kai up against the fence, taking his back, taking him to the mat. But Kai has prepared for that game plan, more than once. So, minus 130, a little bit surprising. Joseph Benavidez taking on Askar Askarov. I love this matchup, guys. JoeyB is a guy we all know. A guy we all respect for what he's done in the sport. He is 37 years old now, fighting at 125. For me, that's a no-go. However, if we look at this fight on paper, JoeyB has proven he's more than capable of winning this matchup. He's arguably the better scrambler, the better wrestler. He has got some power in his hands. He is a good striker. But the scrambling, the wrestling, that's where I'm looking at JoeyB in this matchup. However, we hit the flip side. Askar is younger in his career, maybe more willing to trade in the pocket with Joey. I'm not saying Joey can't win this fight, because he definitely could. But I gotta be honest, man. I do see Joey Benavidez getting dropped at some point. Maybe to a nasty straight punch that potentially breaks the chin. Of course, Askar isn't a Figueiredo. He is more of a grappler himself. But the straight punches against Pantoja looked pretty okay. Maybe that's a problem here. So I'm going to take Askar via TKO in round number 1. And that prediction hurts me, man. It does, If that one comes true, man, JoeyB's got to be done. If Joey, he can win this one. He really can, but something tells me, man, that he's done. If he can prove me wrong, well done. Well done, because that prediction kind of hurt. I'd put Askar minus 150, Joey plus 120. And we've got Askar minus 120, Joey plus 100. So the odds nearly what the actual odds are, nearly. But I do agree with them. I'd put Askar a slight favourite, Joey an underdog, but he could show us. I'm still about, right? I'm not going to predict that, but it's a possibility. Kyler Phillips taking on Song Yadong, and we're going to start with Kyler. So Kyler comes into this matchup 2-0 inside the UFC. Kyler is a pretty unique fighter. His movement seriously noticeable, and that's mainly because he's looking to hit you with some flashy kicks. If he isn't eyeing you up with those flashy kicks, it's probably because he's taking you to the mat. Now you're having to deal with his tricky ground game. Make no mistake, Kyler Phillips has a style of fighting that will cause anyone problems. Song Yadong comes into this matchup 5 wins, 1 draw, 0 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a Sanda fighter. Sanda is Chinese kickboxing, for those of you that don't know. Song is super elite, right? Super elite technical striker that will also give anyone problems. I do believe Marlon Vera maybe won that fight, maybe exposed the cardio of Song, but still, you know, Song Yadong is so technical, you can only be impressed by this guy. This is another super sick matchup on this card. Kyler is more flashy, whereas Song is more violent with his technique. This really could go down either way. I could see Kyler getting a submission, or even a flashy head kick knockout, or even a decision. I could also see Song getting a nasty TKO. The story of this fight, in my opinion, don't miss it. Do not miss this fight. This is going to be exciting. I'm going to side with Song Yadong to be more violent, but man, it's difficult because I haven't picked against either of these guys. I've taken Kyler in both of his matchups in the UFC, and I've taken Song in every single UFC fight too, so I don't really want to see either guy lose, but I'm slightly favouring the technical striking, the violent striking of Song Yadong. So I'll take Song via decision. My numbers, I'd put Song minus 170, Kyler plus 140. And we've got Song minus 150, Kyler plus 130. So yeah, man, a lot of money going on Kyler Phillips. A lot of money going on Song Yadong. We're keeping this line close, and there's a reason. This is exciting. This matchup, it's exciting. Dominic Cruz taking on Kenney. Now, some of you guys may have seen the memes this week. You know the card is great when Dominic Cruz is on the prelims. You know, so true. It's so true. So we've got Dominic Cruz, the former bantamweight champion. Seems so long ago that Dominic Cruz was on top of the world. For those of you that are new to MMA who haven't seen Dominic Cruz fight, this man has unbelievable movement. He gets into a flow state with his movement. It's beautiful to watch. Was the stoppage against Henry Cejudo bad? I would say 50-50. You can make a case it was a good stoppage because Dominic was eating many punches. You can also make a case it was a bad stoppage because Dominic was on the way up when the fight got stopped. So yeah, it's a weird one. But credit to Henry Cejudo, the knee that set down Dominic Cruz, really nasty. Cejudo was also landing many low kicks in that fight too. Kenney comes into this matchup 5 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a dog, right? This guy is a dog. Kenney will walk you down with big punches and a wide variety of kicks. He isn't afraid to smash you with a bunch of kicks. The problem is though, Kenney may have a difficult time with that amazing movement that Dominic Cruz is going to use. Whoever wins this fight, I'm sure it's going to be pure entertainment. Dominic, of course, will look to outpoint outclass, outwork Kenney. Whereas Kenney, this guy's just going to look to be violent. He's going to look to find that opening with the low kicks, the body kicks. He's just going to look to break down Dominic Cruz. You know, Dom isn't the most durable, and Kenney's going to basically try do that. You know, he's going to throw many kicks and just look to beat up Dominic Cruz. Really good fight, really difficult prediction to make. I respect both guys, but I'm going to side with Kenney. I think he could potentially stop Dominic Cruz too, so I'm going to take Kenney via TKO in round number 2. The odds though, man, I'm keeping them close. Again, I'm keeping these ones close. I'd put KC minus 130, Cruz plus 100. Yeah, basically the same. Kenney minus 135, Dominic Cruz plus 105 plus 100. It's understandable. You know, Dominic is a guy not many people can keep up with when it comes to movement. So despite Kenney being so down for a dogfight, he's got to get a hold of him. You know, he's got to keep up with him. And that could be an issue, especially in the first round. Alright, homies, you know what time it is. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker, but you enjoy the smoke breaks, triple amen. Sometimes I get a comment and it says, I didn't expect the smoke break. I didn't expect that halfway through the video, right? Some people, you know, they're not familiar with the smoke breaks. Most of you are, right? Most of you are down with the smoke breaks. So when I say, you know what time it is, some people don't, man. Some people get surprised. And there is one or two people listening right now catching their first smoke break, guys. Alright, so that's an amen. Yeah? All the homies on the smoke break, someone's joining us for the first time, man. That's an amen. So yeah, if you're not familiar with the smoke breaks, this is what we do around here. We just smoke halfway through the card, speak about some real life stuff. Okay, so, smoke break topic. I've had a few messages on Instagram this week for a smoke break topic, so I can't address them all. I do thank you guys for reaching out and giving me these topics, because we're going to get through them, right? If it's not your topic this week, it might be next week, right? Or the week after. So thank you for those topics. They're good topics. But this is the message we're going to do for this one. The message reads, bro, I wanted to offer you a smoke break topic. How should a person deal with seeing others achieve great success in their own field of passion when working on your own passion? Like feeling outside pressure to achieve something at a certain time because you see someone else accomplishing their own dreams while you're chasing yours. So yeah, shout out to the bro that hit me with this one. I like this topic. I like all the topics that I got sent, but this is the one we're going to nail for this one. In my opinion, you've got two ways of looking at this issue, right? You see others around you who are achieving their goals. You see others around you that have what you want. You see people around you that seemingly doing better than you are currently, right? There's two ways of looking at this. And I believe the way you look at this potentially gonna determine whether or not you're gonna be one of these people, right? You've got the first option. Look at this guy, flashy car, money, thinks he's a big guy. Look at this guy, thinks he's so great because of all of his achievements. That's the first option. And then you've got the second option. Man, look at this dude. This guy's got a great car. I can see he's doing well with the way he's dressing. Dude's loving life. Dude's confident within himself. And this is a good guy. This guy's doing well. There's two options, man. You can be negative towards someone who's doing well in their field. or you can be inspired by someone who's doing well. Now, I said this is a great topic because, believe it or not, guys, I used to be the first guy. I used to be the guy who thought, man, this dude's a show off. This dude ain't humble. This dude, you know, he thinks he's the big guy. Years ago, I used to be this guy. I really did. It got me nowhere, right? It didn't help me grow as a person. If anything, it was complain, stay the same. You know, that's that type of thinking. See, when I see someone now who's doing great, who's achieving, who's loving everything that they're doing in their field, I'm inspired by it, man. I don't feel pressure from it. I feel inspiration from it. I now have the mindset of, man, you're doing awesome. But you're human just like me. You're living proof that I can do it too. Right? So I take inspiration. There's two ways that you can look at this. Feel pressure. Feel like, man, you set the bar so high for me to try and, you know, you don't want to look at it like that. You want to be inspired. You want to know that, man, you're proof that I can do it too. But you must also understand two things, bro. There's two things that I need you to understand. Number one, no one defines your success other than you. So if you see someone achieving great things, maybe in your mind, you would say, yeah, this dude's successful. But in his mind, is he successful? See, success is subjective. Only you define whether or not you are successful. And the second thing that I need you to understand is the difference between a person who gets what they want and a person who doesn't achieve the things they want. There's one difference. Well, two differences. Firstly, it's the mindset that we discussed earlier, right? The mindset we discussed earlier. The second thing is the person who gets it, they just kept going, right? There was no plan B. There is no plan B. They broke every bridge around them and left themselves no other option. They only gave themselves one bridge to go with. The person who doesn't achieve what they want simply didn't burn the bridges around them. They didn't go all in. They didn't give it their all. Because if I'm being honest with you guys, your 100%, in my opinion, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this or I'm going to die trying. Right? That's your all. And I'm just being honest with you. The person who gets it is the person who will go for that or they will die trying. There is no plan B. There is no other bridge. Right? So understand that you define your success as a person and understand that the mindset working towards this success, you can be inspired by others or you can be bitter to others. Implement the right mindset. Understand that it's not pressure. I'm going to take inspiration. Understand that when there is no plan B, you're going all in, right? So I hope this message helped you. I hope you understand that we've got two options when it comes to seeing somebody else be successful. On top of that, we must understand that only we define our success, no one else. On top of that, I think you have to be willing to burn bridges. You know, leave yourself one bridge. There is no plan B. I'm just going to keep going. This is the plan. So amen to you, man. I hope you took some wisdom from that. I hope I helped you. And any homie listening, I hope this resonated with you too. And yeah, man, I used to be the first guy, right? I used to be the negative guy. And the thing is, there's a common misconception that when someone is happy with their achievements and someone likes to show what they have and stuff like that, there's a common misconception that that person's a show-off, right? And I recently saw Adesanya on a podcast. Well, I saw this ages ago, but I rewatched it. And a lot of people, Adesanya said the same thing. He said, well, people say that guy's not humble, right? Talking about Adesanya. And Adesanya said, I am humble. Humble's when I get punched in the face by Dan Hooker. Humble's when I get taken down in training. So people don't see what you go through to be able to say, look, I am the best in the octagon, right? People don't, there's the guy that's achieving left himself one option. He will only achieve. There is no plan B. So yeah, man, I hope you guys are having a beautiful smoke break, smoking that good. Instagram on screen. If you've got the Insta, hit that up. Subscribe if you haven't already, of course, and smash the like button. Drop that like button. Alright homies, let's get into this main card. Thiago Santos taking on Alexander Rakic, and we're going to start with the Brazilian, Thiago. So Thiago comes into this matchup 13 wins, 7 losses inside the UFC. A black belt in Muay Thai, a serious power puncher that can sleep any man. A former title challenger, looking to stop the up-and-comer Alexander Rakic. Santos may be coming towards the end of his career. He's had 20 UFC fights now, but we shouldn't overlook this guy. The power he possesses could be a problem in this matchup. Alexander Rakic comes into this matchup 5 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. A nasty kickboxer with a decent wrestling game to back up his kickboxing. Rakic did lose a split decision to Volkan Ozdemir. Really close fight though, could have gone either way. His most recent performance was pretty dominant, held down Anthony Smith, used his wrestling, used his top control. Could Thiago Santos sleep Alexander Rakic? Absolutely, he could. But the flip side is, could Rakic hit Santos with a bunch of low kicks, utilise good movement and maybe mix it up with his wrestling? He absolutely could. It doesn't matter what side you're picking, guys. This is going to be a great fight. I'm going to side with Rakic to mix it up. Maybe wins via decision. Islam Makhachev taking on Drew Dober. What a matchup. Really good matchup. So let's start with Islam. Islam comes into this matchup 7 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Primarily a wrestler. Basically the Khabib prodigy, if you want a really accurate description of what this guy's about. I would say Islam has better kickboxing than Khabib. Maybe not a better wrestling game, I do believe this guy could be a champion one day though. He does have to fight better opposition, and that's exactly what he's getting here in a guy like Drew Dober. Drew Dober comes into this matchup 9 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a boxer. Although Drew isn't afraid of grappling, he probably shouldn't do it here, considering Islam wants to grapple. Drew can stand in the pocket with just about any fighter. He has a real belief in his striking game, and it's clear to see why. You look at the performances against Camacho, against Nasrat, against Alex Hernandez. Drew Dober can box. I do think the story of this fight is going to be Islam Makhachev a step ahead of Drew Dober with the wrestling. Anytime Drew Dober looks to find some good success with his boxing, I think Islam, takedown. Straight into takedown city. Islam does have pretty good movement on the outside, so maybe he chooses to stand and dance with Drew Dober. But as this fight goes on, I think we're just going to see Islam be Islam. A really well-rounded MMA fighter, good kickboxing, even better wrestling, and that's what I'm going to side with. So I'll take Islam Makhachev via decision. I'd put Islam minus 250, Drew Dober plus 210. And the actual numbers, we've got Islam over minus 300. That's the belief that's going into this guy. He really is the Khabib prodigy. And the only thing I would say about Islam is the opposition. You know, he needs to fight better opponents. So this one's going to be interesting. We've got the first title fight, guys. Peter Yan taking on Aljamain Sterling. And we're going to start with the Russian. Peter Yan comes into this matchup 7-0 inside the UFC. Primarily a Muay Thai striker. Way more boxing orientated than kick orientated. A super nasty striker that always seems to be in his type of fight. He was dropped by John Dodson, but recovered. He was also hurt quite badly from Jose Aldo with the low kick. Had to switch his stance in that fight, but still went on to win. It's clear to see that Peter Yan handles adversity pretty well. It's difficult to stop this man. The opponent, Aljamain Sterling, comes into this matchup 11 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a wrestler with some pretty slick BJJ. As for his striking, he's usually hitting the opponent with teeps to the body or low kicks. His boxing never really been an area that he's looking to shine. It's usually the wrestling, right? Coming off a super impressive win over Corey Sandhagen, where he basically took the back, and that was that. This is a great title fight. Aljo will definitely look to take down Peter Yan, look to take the back, find the choke. If it doesn't happen the first time, I'm sure there's going to be many more attempts from Aljamain Sterling. The flip side though is Peter Yan, like I said earlier, always seems to fight his type of fight, which is using Muay Thai. In Muay Thai, you don't stand far away from the opponent. You could almost put a rope between you and your opponent. There isn't a lot of moving in the training of Muay Thai. If you notice when Peter Yan fights, he's always stood right in front of the opponent. And that's because he's a Muay Thai specialist. Jose Aldo competed quite well in that Muay Thai battle. He stood right in front of Yan and traded like a veteran, like a legend. I'm not sure Aljamain Sterling is going to compete in that Muay Thai space. When Yan gets close, Aljo is going to shoot and look to close that distance, that short distance, with a takedown. He isn't going to entertain a Muay Thai battle. This one really comes down to who can implement their style. And for me, it's going to be the guy that has always implemented his style. And that's Peter Yan. I see him potentially finishing Aljo later on in this matchup, or even a close decision, because Aljo will most likely have a good early start with his wrestling. So I'm going to predict Peter Yan via decision, 48-47, maybe even a split decision. And if it doesn't, if there's a finish, I'm going to say it's Peter Yan. Amazing title fight though, because Aljo, we know how good of a wrestler this guy is. I'm just not sure it's going to happen outside of round 1, round 2. As the fight goes on, I think it's going to be more Peter Yan in his Muay Thai striking fight. My numbers, I'd put Peter Yan minus 160, Aljo plus 130. And we've got this minus 110 each side. So a lot of faith going on Aljamain Sterling to be the first guy to beat Peter Yan. It's understandable because if you look at what he did to Corey Sandhagen, he's going to look to wrap up Peter Yan in that first round. The only concern I have is if he doesn't do it in that first round, is the first round going to look like the second round? Or is Peter Yan going to be able to now start striking? In my opinion, I think he's going to start striking as this fight goes on. So I'm going to side with Peter Yan to stay champion. Amanda Nunes taking on Megan Anderson. This is going to be a title defense at 145 for Amanda. I like that too because, let's be honest, despite how deadly Amanda Nunes is, she isn't really a 145er. She's not as big or as long as Megan Anderson. So that's going to be a type of adversity that Amanda has to deal with despite being the way more decorated fighter. Amanda Nunes, in my opinion, has the better ground game, the better striking, just better anywhere this fight goes. But I do have a feeling that Megan Anderson is going to compete round in, round out. Maybe not win these rounds, but I've got a feeling she's going to do a bit better than most people are going to predict. And because of that, I do see the fight going 25 minutes. Most likely a 50-45 or 49-46 for Amanda Nunes. But I'm going to give Megan Anderson the respect and basically say she can compete. Probably not win the rounds, but maybe compete in there. So I'll predict Amanda Nunes, just too much experience, and wins over 25 minutes via decision. I'd put Amanda minus 550, Megan plus 450. And the actual numbers are just no respect, you know, or maybe it's too much respect, right? It is Amanda Nunes. This woman, she's beat the best. And if she wasn't champion of 145, Megan Anderson wouldn't even get a chance, you know? So Megan does have to use her size, but I'm just not sure it's going to be enough. Maybe enough though, like I said, to go the full 25, but Amanda Nunes, man, you can't really see her losing. Alright homies, main event, we've got Jan Blachowicz taking on Israel Adesanya. If you've enjoyed my breakdown at any point, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button. Let's start with Jan Blachowicz. Jan comes into this matchup 10 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a Polish power puncher, with a good ground game too. Jan started off a pretty average guy in the UFC, but man, he really started to get more and more nasty as his career has gone on. Anyone who steps up from middleweight seems to get beaten by Jan. Only Thiago Santos was able to step up and get a good win against Jan Blachowicz. Jan is coming off a huge win over Dominic Reyes that secured him the dream of becoming the 205 champion. You can only respect it. You know, this guy he's kept going. There was no plan B. This guy kept going and now he's the champion. Israel Adesanya, the champion of 185, player one as he would describe himself. One of the best technical strikers we're ever going to see inside the octagon. Adesanya really looks like a video game character. The way he switches stances, the speed of his kicking ability, the ability to hurt you from any angle. He's a problem. Early on in his career, he was taken to the mat by Marvin Vettori, but since then, no one else has been able to do that. No one else can secure that takedown. There's two questions we've got to ask ourselves. Number one, does Jan have the punching power to sleep Adesanya? Yes, he does. We always say this though, you know, Whitaker has the power. Gastelum has the speed and power. Costa has the power. Romero has the power. Yes, all of these guys do have power, but Jan Blachowicz is a 205er. This guy really does have more power than all of those guys. The second question I think we've got to ask, can Jan take down Adesanya and finish him on the mat? This one is a bit trickier to answer, but factoring in the small octagon, I would say yes. Despite answering yes to both of these questions, I'm still going to side with Adesanya. I've never picked against him. I personally think this is the toughest matchup to date. I know a lot of people are going to disagree and say, you know, there's someone at 185 that was tougher than Jan Blachowicz. But this is inside the smaller octagon. Adesanya hasn't fought in the smaller octagon, and he's now doing it against a bigger and more powerful opponent that he's ever fought to date. This is a difficult fight for Adesanya, but I do believe his striking ability and movement ability will be enough even in the smaller octagon. Could he TKO Jan Blachowicz? Yes, he could. Could Jan Blachowicz TKO Adesanya? Yes, he could. I'm going to take Adesanya via decision. My numbers would be Adesanya minus 180, Jan Blachowicz plus 150. I've taken Adesanya every single fight, man. From the Wilkinson debut until now, I haven't gone against him. But make no mistake, you know, Jan Blachowicz has more power. He has more power than Costa, Romero, Whitaker, Gastelum. He's a bigger guy. So despite the same story, you know, every fight for Adesanya is the same story. The power of the opponent, the power. And we're looking at this one thinking, he's fought against power punchers. This is a different type of power. This is Polish power, right? So don't be surprised. I think if you're betting on Jan, I think it's the same vibe as Derek. I think it's the same vibe as Rosenstrike. If you're betting on Jan, do it, man. Just take the TKO prop. Because I don't think he's going to outpoint Adesanya. And he's probably not going to finish this with a submission. It's going to be by deading Adesanya. If you're taking Adesanya, I think there's a couple ways. I think he could go high, head kick Jan Blachowicz, or maybe outpoint him and win over 25. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed the breakdown. This card is probably one of the best cards I'm ever going to witness, so I'm going to enjoy every single fight. I know you guys are too. As always, drop down your underdogs, your parlays, and my Instagram will be in the comment section or at the end of this video. Alright guys, peace.